Hi and welcome to my channel called Unique Art. So, as promised, I'm going to continue on with the art history timeline. So I'm going to be doing today the modern art timeline, and I'll also be giving you a brief summary of each of the art movements. So I'm going to be doing 25 today since there is 40. So there is going to be a part 4. So I had to add an extra part because there was quite a few new art movements that I got familiar with, and I just had to add it on as well. Okay, so the first one we're gonna do is early Christian art or Byzantine art, which started in the year 192 to the year 526. Okay, so early Christian art was known as Byzantine art. They had wall ceilings, paintings in the Roman catacombs, which is known as the underground burials. The catacombs paintings recorded biblical subject matter from the 4th century. They made use of symbolism for Christianity, and they had beautiful mosaics and relief sculpture. Painting also depicted illuminated manuscripts, which also later influenced the Celtic Saxon illuminated gospel manuscripts. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is medieval art, which started in the year 410 to the year 1924. So medieval art is full of color and beautiful craftsmanship. It was produced by the Anglo-Saxons. They painted intricate details. It is a time that unified the Christian church. Okay, the next movement is the Middle Ages, which started in the year 500 to the year 1400 or 1400 if you want to go that way. Okay, so the Middle Ages consist of Celtic art, Carolingian, Renaissance, Romanesque, and Gothic art. So this is where these arts emerges in the Middle Ages. Okay, the next one is Skelton or Saxon illuminated gospel manuscripts, which started in the year 500 to the year 800. So Celtic illuminated gospel manuscripts, they were known as the gospel books, which illustrated biblical subject matter of Christianity. It is also part of the medieval art and Celtic culture. They also had beautiful calligraphy, and this later influenced Islamic art. Okay, so the next movement is Carolingian art, which started in the year 800 to the year 1900. So Carolingian art, they emphasized classical motifs. They made functional art objects. Okay, the Roman art was memorial, public, and huge. They made metal artifacts, manuscripts, and ivory panels. Motifs consisted of Roman, Celtic, and Nordic traditions. Figurines had elongated faces with large eyes and Christian symbolism. So the next movement is Ognian, or known as German medieval art, started in the year 800 to the year 1250. Yes, it does have a strange pronunciation. It's silent T's. I don't know why. It's probably because of the language that it derived from. So they explored paintings and sculptures, and this made for the German Ognium emperors from the royal house of Salak. These stylistic characteristics consist of dramatic gestures with heightened coloration. They created large-scale sculptures, and they made wood crucifixes, and they made use of gold leaf in these sculptures, which you do. Lots of artists today use gold leaf in their drawings as well. So this is actually when it started. So the next movement we're going to focus on is Romanesque art, which started in the year 950 to 1100. So Romanesque art focused on stylized depiction of human forms and classical ideas of humanism. The artworks were spread from the Roman Church, um, since most people outside of the church were illiterate. The church became a place to learn. The church became the place of importance. Okay, the next movement is Gothic art, which started in the year 1140 to the year 1300. So Gothic art is a style that is part of medieval art and was located in northern France. They created stained glass windows, large-scale structures that helped emphasize the beauty of light, which represents God's presence. They combined styles from Byzantine and Romanesque art. These structures created facades in the front and vaults, and contained huge buttresses on the side to keep the structure, almost to reinforce the structure. Okay, the next one is Mosaic art, which started in the year 1150 to the year 1450. Mosaic art is part of Romanesque art. They created architecture and sculpture. They created stone sculpture, ivory carving, miniature painting, and metalwork. They were known for their goldsmithing and their jewelry art. This artwork was seen in Italy, Germany, and France. Mosaic metalworkers were apparently very high in demand during their time. So the next one is frescoes. It started in the year 1333 to the year 1400. And they say this is also part of the High Renaissance period, that time of Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci. Frescoes are known as wall paintings or wall murals. They made use of plaster and water-based paints in order to create these paintings, and most of it was biblical subject matter. Okay, so the next art movement is Early and High Renaissance, which started in the year 1400 to the year 1550. Early Renaissance is or was the rebirth of classical culture. So it was a time where artists felt that they needed to bring back the classical traditions of art. Okay, so the next one is Venetian and Northern Renaissance. Sorry, Venetian and Northern Renaissance. Sorry about the pronunciation there. Okay, this is a time where Renaissance was spread up to the north of France and countries such as Germany and Poland and England. So it's basically the same as early and high Renaissance. It's just that it started developing in other countries because they were like influenced by the Renaissance artists. So the next one is Mannerism, which was in the year 1527 to the year 1580. Mannerism was art that breaks the rules of the traditional rules. So this is an art movement which clearly indicates, how modern art started changing, from this biblical subject matter in order to start painting things that was important for the artist. So this is a very important movement, and it signified basically the change and what we see in postmodernism. Okay, so the next one is Baroque art, which started in the year 1600 to the year 1750. Baroque art was used as a weapon for religious wars. They emphasized light and theatrical poses, and the subject matter was obviously biblical. Okay, so the next one is Dutch art, which started in 1620 to the year 1670. Dutch art, it was a celebration of Dutch life and identity. It focused on ordinary life scenes. They were known for their landscape paintings and also for their still life. So Dutch paintings was the start of where people started painting scenery of, nature and just objects, or known in art as still life. So this was the start of, breaking away from tradition, and instead of painting biblical subject matter, as I was saying before, they started painting thing, things that were aesthetically pleasing to them, and objects of importance. Okay, so the next one is American colonial art, which started in 1670 to the year 1800. American colonial art came from the British settlers on America. So they brought the European influence to their artworks. It was a time where plantations began, and the society represented the wealthy and ambitious ideals. So the next art movement is Rococo art, which started in the year 1720 to the year 1760. Rococo art derived from the French word rochelle. It was part of the interior design, architecture, decorative arts, and sculpture. It started in France but then spread to Austria and German. It has lightness, elegance, and natural forms of ornamentation. So this Rococo art was actually the beginning of influencing the Victorian artists, which did over ornamentation. So the next art movement is Neoclassicism. It started in the year 1750 to the year 1850. So Neoclassicism, it was influenced by the Baroque and Rococo art. They focused on simplicity, symmetry, and mathematics. Their works idealized art movements of ancient Greece and ancient Rome, and were often biblical subject matter. They wanted to send a message of moralism to transform the society, which was influenced by the Industrial Revolution. It focused on political and social things that happened during the time, and the paintings had beautiful, realistic detail. But however, symmetry, mathematics were emphasized. So the next art movement that we have is Romanticism. It started in the year 1780 to the year 1850. So Romanticism is a celebration of imagination. Paintings that was thought as a manifestation of the artist's imagination. It emphasized emotions and also the artist's experience in the world. It embraces struggles of freedom, equality, and justice. They shed light on these ideas with dramatic compositions. So if you hear celebration of imagination, it does make you think about surrealism, which comes later in the 1970s. Okay, so the next one is academic art, which started in the year 1800, and there's no end date because we still do it nowadays. Okay, so academic art, it consists of academics in Europe, especially in France, in the formal training. They made use of mythology and historical subject matter with a moralistic tone. So the next art movement that we have is the Victorian art, which started in 1840, and there's no end date because there's still artists who do use Victorian art style. It is the beginning of Queen Victoria's reign as Queen of England, and the main subject matter was nobility, military, and historical scenes. A time where the wealthy and the middle class became a market. It was a detachment from reality, and they also emphasized over ornamentation, which many critics called garish or too overly done. So the next movement is pre-Raphaelite, which started in the year 1845 to the year 1854. So the pre-Raphaelite, let's find the notes. They were a group known as the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. It was a society of painters founded in London. They believed that art being about realism. They explored social problems as well. They also painted about literature and poetry. Okay, the next art movement is arts and crafts, which started in the the year 1860 to the year 1890. So, arts and craft was a movement that was created to bring back craftsmanship of beautifully handmade goods. William Morris was the founder and believed the Industrial Revolution production of goods were impersonal and lost the quality of the traditional craftsmanship brought. Okay, the next one is Impressionism, which started in the year 1865 to the year 1885. So, Impressionism is an art movement started in France. They painted landscapes and everyday life scenes. Their brushstrokes became spontaneous and they made use of simple dabs. They did this in order to capture the light, which they did by doing live paintings. So this is where live paintings actually started, in the Impressionism time. Okay, and last but not least, we have Naturalism, which started in the year 1870 to the year 1880. Just going to my notes. Okay, so naturalism is a depiction of realistic objects in a natural setting. They believe they were true to life by bringing realism. So naturalism art, as I was saying, they believed were true to life by bringing realism into their artworks. It was also known as realism art. It focused on social realities instead of aesthetically pleasing and ideals. So this is part 2 of the art history timeline. This is the modern art. I will be continuing on with modern art for part 3, and it will be about kinetic art and cubism, minimalism, and so forth. As you can see in the beginning of this timeline, in modern art timeline, it was basically biblical and very traditional. And yeah, after the year 1000, they started breaking away from tradition and started painting different types of subject matters, started painting what the artist wanted to, and also important historical figures. So this is basically modern art in how it developed into what is seen as today. So stay tuned. I will be having part 3 soon, hopefully by next week. So thanks for watching. Goodbye.